Welcome, everybody. I'm Jen Romano, co-chair of the UXPA 2025 conference. I'm excited to be here today with Claudia Gutierrez, and I'm joined by Sarah Mastro, conference co-chair and UXPA president, and Anne Yosen-Verta, the UXPA 2025 pre-conference course chair. Welcome, everybody, and welcome, Claudia.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi.
Jen. Hi, Anne. I'm
Hi.
Sarah.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us today, Claudia. We'd love to hear a bit about your career path. Tell us a bit about how it all started. Take us back. How did it begin and how did you get to where you are now?
Okay, it's a long journey. I have been doing in the UX field for over 25 years so far. I started actually, my background is in communications, and back then, communication was just journalism and just like doing PR and stuff. So I really started doing design and try to think about users from my communication standpoint, like being empathetic and try to understand and tell a story to the user. So I started many years ago in Latin America and in Spain, where all the internet flow was just starting. So it has been a career where I've had a little bit of everything, a little bit of research, a little bit of design, a little bit of data. And of course, as I was one of the ones that started the discipline, especially in Latin America and in Chile, that it's my country, I've got to had also a parallel career in teaching and being an evangelizer for the future generations. So I've been doing design and doing making myself as a design director our research with research and content and a little bit of data over the years, as well as being a professor on UX for undergraduate and graduate studies. So all this path, which has been a mixture of communication, design, and now data, has led me now to see where all this is going. And right now, I've been focused in the past 10 years 8 to 10 years, I think, in data and artificial intelligence, thinking where the human computer interaction will be in the next years, or how is it being is going on now. So right now I'm fully dedicated to data. I'm a consultant in product and artificial intelligence, and I'm doing that for different clients in Latin America and in Spain. I've
And
also
be-
been a UXPA member of
uh,
many years. I was part of the board also, so I got to work with you all.
hey, before you kind of talk about your customers, I'm really kind of interested. AI is obviously the topic of the day. There's so much stuff in everywhere about the AI. What do you see like from UX perspective? What are the biggest challenges that we are facing in this new era of AI?
Yes, I think AI has been touched like a new solution and as the solution that is
Mm.
trending right now. But I think we really need to think AI as a new way we're going to interact with the interfaces. So the way I have seen AI is to understand data of the primary material for design. So
Mm.
that for me, it implies that designers have to have different capabilities and abilities that we have been used to. For
Mm.
example, I had to form myself with a certificate of data science to get into be an AI and product consultant and advisor because I really need to understand data and mathematical models, not to do it, but to understand how the user will interact with them. So I think it's right now it's being a trend and it's very famous all over the world as the solution, but I
Mm.
don't think it's the solution. It's like we really need to understand how we
Mm.
interact with these invisible interfaces in the future,
Mm.
how everything is going to change and how we designers need to adapt to that change.
Mhm. So it sounds like it's not so much of a threat. Like a lot of people are worried that AI is going to take our jobs. We just have to figure out how to use it.
Exactly. I think it's not a threat at all. I think we really need to reconvert ourselves to I usually say it like the most primary part of the process. We need to go back to the roots of design and think of solutions as a critical way of thinking of for the user. Is this the best solution for the user? How the user will interact with the solution? And that's why we are here, right? Because we really need to understand how users will use our products. But in order to understand that, we really need to understand data because we're not designing anymore with a pixel. I mean, we're showing interfaces, but also that part of the design is done by AI right now, and it will be done much more effectively in the future. So we really need to think, is the algorithm fulfilling the needs of the user? Is the mathematical model something the user will use? And I don't think we're doing that right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're just having AI because it's a hype.
Mm-hmm. Can you share a bit about your clients? So shifting gears a little bit, maybe the kinds of projects you currently work on in your career.
Well, I've done a lot. I've worked a lot in education and in government, especially in Latin America. So I've faced a lot of governance, like design-wise, content-wise, and data-wise. I actually developed one of the biggest data governance models for the largest university in Chile, which actually went as a framework for the Chilean government. And I think it's important to see how data interconnects within data and within design and within content in an ops model, in a governance model, because it makes everything more efficient. The work of designers, the strategic work, the content work. So mostly my projects have been in managing large organizations within data, content, and design. And in the past years, I have been working especially with machine learning and artificial intelligence products. One, it was a food tech, a big food tech that actually used an algorithm to develop vegan foods that don't have the animal in the equation. So they would create like a mimic of a carnic food, but with vegan ingredients using the algorithm. So we actually, it was like a B2B, B2C kind of projects. We were with that startup. And right now I'm more working a lot on evangelizing designers and product people in using these technologies and how they will face the interaction with the machine. How to understand.
Fascinating. I love that. It's very forward thinking, and I feel like a lot of the direction in which we're going or that people are fascinated with, but they don't quite actually get to do this type of work.
Yes. And well, right now I just moved to Spain, and I'm very obsessed with what Europe is doing right now because Europe has some constraints that are very different from the rest of the world because there are limitations within ethical regulations and legal regulations that are not in the rest of the world. So right now, I kind of want to explore how Europe is doing in this field because that also faces another challenge. I have seen it. I've just been here for a week, but I've seen it like when you try to interact with an interface here, you get all these different regulations within the privacy of your data, especially, and that is especially when you're dealing with AI products. So that will bring a whole other dimension of being conscious on who is using our data and how our data is used, that I think Europe is being very forward on doing this.
Interesting. Do you think, like you say, that you are now more aware of how companies are using your data? Do you
I
think that
really,
that's a different from like when you were in in Southern America?
yes.
Was
Um, I did an exercise last year, and that's probably we're gonna talk about that, but that's what I'm gonna do in my workshop. I ask, I mapped myself with the different companies that have my data,
mm,
everything. For these
mm,
past 25 years I've been on the internet,
mm,
which was huge.
Mm.
mm,
And I started asking these companies, different companies, for my data. You cannot even imagine how many terabytes of data is that.
Mm.
And I did it just to feel conscious on who has my data or what kind of data they have. And I discovered things of myself, for example, that I didn't work too much on Wednesdays, or that I usually use my lunchtime for working, and I haven't had certain years good lunches. So, so you start kind of
Mm.
covering things from of yourself. But I did that to be aware of how my data has been. And this happens not just to me, but to
mm,
everybody.
mm,
We have had been giving our data to companies without even acknowledging who are we and what data do they have. We
mm,
just go with the flow, interact with different apps, with different companies, and we don't know what data they have. We get
mm,
personalized products, which is awesome, but that is at the cost of something. So we haven't been aware, at least that's from my viewpoint, we haven't been aware of what is the cost of giving that data until now, when we
mm,
have the threat of AI. And
Mhm.
when AI is exposing much more because data is their primal material of design and how we
mm,
interact. So AI is exposing much more that they need our
Mm.
data. So
mm,
right now, I think we're like in an inflection point that we really need to be aware, because
mm,
otherwise we're gonna be only dealing with data in a superficial way. We're not gonna go deep, and we won't know, because now they will need even more data. What data has what company? So we
mm,
really need to be aware. And as designers, I think we have an ethical and a responsibility within our profession, to a designers of experience especially, to actually make that visible to the user, make that that the user is aware of what is going on. So
mm.
so I'm kind of exploring that.
So fascinating. We're going to get into your workshop in just a minute, but I'd love to hear what you have in mind there. Before we get into that, what advice do you have for people who are exploring UX career options? There's many people out there on the job market. What advice do you have for people to be best prepared while they're on the job market?
I think the best advice is not to be, if you go into LinkedIn and like all the different UX blogs, like everybody says UX is dying, UX market is not what it used to be. We had a big hype and now we don't need UXers. I think we need UX more than ever, but we need to actually reconvert those UXers to understand what's the world looking right now, and that is data. So the first advice is, don't read those books. No, don't read them, but don't feel threatened,
Mm.
because actually, yes, AI is probably gonna do design. AI is probably gonna code much better and efficiently than what we do. AI is, I don't like it, but it's probably even to validation with users, you know.
Mm.
Uh, not again, it's not that I am confident with that, but it's probably something's going to happen. But I would say to the people that are coming into UX, try to go to the roots of your profession.
Mm.
Try to see why you are doing UX, why you're designing solutions for the user, why you're designing products for the user, and understand technology as a medium of satisfying those users. So don't get into this Figma hype, whatever software hype on doing the operational part. Go to the roots. Start thinking critically about design. Start thinking for example, for students that are going out of school, start thinking as they taught you in a school. So that I think is going to make designers much more worthy, much more, if they are more critical, I think they will bring more solutions, and they will bring more discussion to the field, and we need discussion. So I would say, don't be threatened, don't feel threatened by all these people that is saying that UX is dying, we need UXers more than ever. And if you actually go to the UNESCO or the different reports are on AI and how AI is going to shape human capital, human talent in the future, we are going to need more humanist and critical thinking professions, philosophers, people in sociology, anthropologists, psychologists, designers. So don't believe that, I would say.
Great advice, because there's definitely, I feel the same, where there's a lot of fear mongering about the UX field and whether or not we should stay or where is it going. The other thing about LinkedIn is, like, don't spend too much time on there, because there's so many people looking and so many people losing their jobs. And then there's so much discussion that I think it can be really overwhelming and depressing instead of uplifting, so I recommend people time box it. Like, it's a great resource, right? It's a great platform to have career discussions and find opportunities, but time box it.
Yeah, and another thing on that side, what you're saying, Jen, is to see more people like in real life, like get together, like have human contact. We need human contact. We need to have discussions. We need the mind to evolve. And some in when you're doing in the internet, you have some ideas and you need to compartmentalize the ideas when you're writing them. So when you're talking, it's more natural. So you get to also to have different senses. So see people, meet people, go to conferences. Of course, go to UXPA conference, but go to conferences, go to discussion chats, meet people. I think that's super important.
Yeah, agree. So let's talk about the conference. So the UXPA, the User Experience Professionals Association, our annual conference is June 16 to 19 in Amsterdam. You are coming back. You've been a long time attendee. As you mentioned, you've been on the board, you've been involved with the conference committee, and you're teaching a course this year on June 16th called Data Mindfulness, Designing with Data in Mind. Tell us about your course and how this came to be and what we can expect.
It's a little bit what I was talking before. I acquired this concept of, I'm sorry to psychologists, which are experts in mindfulness, but I mean mindfulness here from being aware that we don't have just the identity of us being a person, we have a digital identity, and we need to be aware of that. And that digital identity is not new. It's something that has been formed for me over the past 25 years. For other people, maybe less amount of years, but it has been out there. So we really need to be aware of it, because we're human beings and we're beings of data. We're data beings. So being a data being, like I have an essence that is based on data, we really need to understand who is having our data, who is using our data, who are we according to our data, because maybe we're not the same person according to our data that we are the person that relates to somebody in person, our physical identity. So we need to be aware. And why? Because that consciousness, for me, is going to give us the arguments to actually ethically protect and regulate how we're interacting with the different interfaces. So what I'm planning to do in my workshop is having this awareness, is making all my attendees aware that they are data beings and how bringing their own data and finding things about themselves in the data and actually visualizing themselves with data. So when they go out after a workshop and they design an interface for a client, they can actually question themselves, hey, how is this data being used? How is the person going to interact, and how is the person going to see their own data? Because I really think we need to have that consciousness. So that's basically a summary of what the workshop is about, but it's probably going to bring some surprises. For example, that when I did my own exercise of many, many terabytes, I don't plan for the people to bring teras and teras of data, but just a little bit of data. But when I did my own exercise, I found out that there was some years that I didn't have lunch, for example, which probably doesn't, nobody cares about it, but it's probably something is an insight for me. And how visualize my own insights, and how I can take that and then bring it to the users that are out there.
Do people need to do an activity ahead of time to bring data, or will this be something that you all do together in person?
No, I'll ask people to bring their own data. So you actually need to have a little bit of activity ahead of time, because some companies take weeks to give you your data. I don't want people to bring all of their data, because otherwise we'll be parsing data the whole workshop, but just a little bit. I'm going to give like the instructions with how much data. And if they don't want to bring their own data, I'll have data sets available for people to work, so they can actually have these insights within the data sets I provide, because I understand that it's a mindful exercise, and when you're doing mindfulness, it's something sometimes you don't want to expose yourself to others. So if people want to bring their data, it's perfect. If people don't want to bring their data, I'm going to have data sets so they can work with their data, with the data I bring.
Awesome. Claudia, what are you looking forward to at this conference? You've been to a bunch of UXPA conferences. What are you looking forward to?
I'm super excited that the conference is going back to Europe. I hasn't come here since London 2014. So I'm super excited. It's going to be in Europe. I'm super excited that we're going to have a lot of different talks and courses on data and AI, which is what I'm doing right now. So I'm super excited for that. And on top of that, I'm super excited to meet new colleagues that are working in UX in this part of the world, which now I am in. And it's always fun. It's always enlightening to have discussions. And because what I was telling you before, that I think we really need to go back to the roots of design. So these instances are for having discussion, meet in person, which I think is super necessary, and foster these discussions that are essential for our discipline.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing you. Yeah. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Where can people find you? Obviously at the conference in June. How else can they get in touch with you?
Oh, yes, I'm on LinkedIn. My profile is Claudia Gutierrez, which is Spanish name, so I can send you the link, because it's probably not easy for everyone. And usually on LinkedIn and in at the conference. And I have also an academia profile, because I've been a professor for more than 18 years now. So that's also where all my conference presentations and my papers are there. So I'm online, I'm available. I'm super happy to talk to everybody. I think the community, we build the community among all. So I'm super, super excited for what's to come.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Claudia. Excited to see you again in June in Amsterdam. Yeah, thank you again. We'll
See
see you
you
soon.
soon.
Bye. See you.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye. Bye-bye.